think just recap-wise of last week, very similar to what I said after the game. I thought it was obviously a hard-fought game, but after watching, I do feel better about a lot of things. And defensively in particular, we played better than I actually thought. One series in the start of the second half was probably the one thing that jumps out. And then offensively, just efficiency. I think very efficient. Created some big plays in the first half. Second half, I don't know. We weren't quite as efficient. We didn't create some big plays. I'm not saying we changed modes a little bit, but there were a lot of really good things to grow upon. And then actually, the last 6 minutes of the game got a lot of those other guys in the ball game, even though it was still a ball game. But you got those young freshman running backs, got some of those young offensive linemen in the game to take some really good reps in some situations where we still needed to move the ball and get some first downs and continue to run the clock. So as we move past that, we all know it's a big week, and this is something that was told to me, I think, the day after I took the job. Not that I was looking at that in particular as the whole thing happened, but over a year and a half ago, this was something that was brought up, and not something I spent a whole lot of time thinking about until now. And so this is a great opportunity, and I think our guys are extremely excited. As we went into fall camp, these were the things that were in front of us, and we knew that. This is kind of the start. Not that the first two games weren't the start of the season, but we knew that this was going to be the opportunity and the point in time when we really, really get to see where we are and who we are. And so that challenge is in front of us, and I think we're really excited about it.
Luke, you kind of talked about the players and this being a special week. Some coaches have the philosophy of, hey, every game's the same. Do you like the idea that your guys feel like, hey, this is a unique type special opportunity?
No, I mean, us as coaches like to try to say, hey, it was a routine. We do everything the same way no matter what it is, the faceless, nameless opponent. The realities of those things is probably not true. Some of us can hide our heads and live under a rock like I do, but our guys understand. Our guys are much more aware. And so this was something that had been talked about since spring football, and not by me. I'm not like standing up there and say, hey, this is Alabama week in spring ball, and we're going to do this. And we work on the rivalry weeks. We talk about the teams that we play historically. We don't talk about some of these games, but our guys are all aware of it. And so for them, it's been something that, just like me, it's been in the back of their heads, probably a little bit closer to the front of their heads too often. But it's something where I think they really do understand. Like, this is what makes college football, right? There's two things. College football is great, but rivalries and games like this is what really kind of separates college football from everything else.
Let's say Luke, former assistant of yours, is on the Alabama staff now with Colin. Is it, when it comes to preparation, are you worried just because he knows the defense schematically, or no one going up against the offense too?
No, I mean, sometimes too much, right? I mean, I think that there's a lot of things that they're doing defensively that look similar to some of the things that, I would probably recognize. But there's still, you can think too much. We've changed a bit defensively in some ways. Obviously, as Alex Grinch has come in, we've had some new set of eyes, and in year two found the things that we think we do better with the type of guys that we have. But there's a knowledge on both sides. I think there's a knowledge that he has of playing against the offense every day. But I don't think there's something that's extreme. It's not like, hey, they're going to know every signal. They're going to know everything. We're going to have to go silent. We're going to have to go like. If they worry too much about those things, just like the reverse, if I, watch the defense and say, okay, I think I know exactly what they're doing, then sometimes you spend too much time instead of, really focus on the things that you need to be able to do to be successful and to win a football game. So it's the same. There's some balance to that, but I don't think that there's something that's underlining that's going to have a greater impact on the game than the normal.
Luke, from a big picture standpoint, you touched on it a little bit. How fair is it to use this game to have the number 4th ranked team come into your house? From a bigger picture, give that program assessment. How big is that for you?
Well, it's real big. I mean, every week is an assessment. That's the thing, right? You're evaluating, you're assessing, you're seeing how you're growing, the things that you're doing, but you know where you want to be. And I think that's what we've always kind of, since we walked in the door, and they've always had that here. I think Coach Alvarez has been one of the guys that brought that mentality and that idea in here. And if you want to be the best and you want to compete with the best, then you got to play the best. And this just gives you that opportunity, regardless of what they're ranked, right? I couldn't even tell you that they were 4. But I know this, over the last 20 years, who's been the best team in college football, and there's no doubt it's been Alabama. So regardless of where they are at this moment, this is as good a football team that there is in the country, and has been for a really, really long time. And so no matter where you are as a program, it gives you an opportunity to assess a lot of different things.
Coach, with Jake Chaney missing the first half of the week, how do you guys go about preparing with the responsibilities at the mic, knowing that he probably will play the second half as well?
Yeah, you got to make sure that you got enough guys ready, and so those situations are not the easiest thing in the world, but it is what it is, right? Jake will still prepare just like he's going to play, just like he's going to start. He'll still get, probably not as many reps because you do have to get some other guys ready. I think that Tackett will obviously step in and did on Saturday and did a really good job, and then you'll have an opportunity for a few other guys. To kind of fill in, and do you do you move some guys around? Do you try Christian Allegro, move him in there in some situations? There's a lot of combinations I think that we'll look at and be able to, have prepared and ready, and hopefully we won't need them. Hopefully nothing else happens, and you feel pretty good about where you are. But there's a lot of things. Tyler Janzi's a guy that'll, had done a really good job and got hurt in fall camp, and really kind of was only out for about 3 or 4 days, but really, was limited in a lot of things he could do. So he'll take some more reps in there this week as well, and which in the long run will help us.
Luke, you obviously played this program a few years ago in the playoffs. You had a month to prepare last time, 6 days really this time. There are some pros and cons to that. Maybe not getting too far into it.
Yeah.
Just kind of.
Well, there's a lot of different things. How much do you go back to all the Washington stuff? How much do you go back to just what they've done the first couple weeks? How much do you go back to what you did, a few years ago? You got to be careful. You still got to figure out what it is that you believe your players and your program can handle, and that's what you got to be able to go with. So we do have to find that balance, and that's the challenge to the coaches more than anything, right? We talked about it with somebody that has some idea of who you are and what you've done. Does that mean you got to change? And so I think this is even a tougher week on coaches because, sometimes you want to think you want to be perfect and you want to create some new things when sometimes in these types of games, that's the worst thing that you can do. So our players will be ready. They want anything we can throw at them, but I think it's our job to really make sure we pick and choose, what we expect and get our guys prepared for those things. And then, like we always say, you have to be able to adapt and adjust because there's going to be a lot of different things that are going to happen.
Alabama's offensive line came into the season really highly regarded. Seemed to have some issues against South Florida. Just what have you kind of seen when you look at their offensive line?
I think they're still young and trying to figure out the best combination themselves. Obviously the Proctor kid didn't play in week 1 and didn't play in week 2, so that probably helped them shift. And it, not like he wasn't there. I think it happened in warm-ups of game 1, which obviously can throw you for a real loop. And now as you start to move guys from guard to tackle and tackle to guard and things like that, it's not the easiest thing in the world. So if anything, I would say that just finding that rotation, finding that those guys, how they got to all work together, that's of one position that in particular that guys have to work on the same page. It's the offensive line. And if there's anything that maybe has, caused them some of those issues, it's probably just the idea that, okay, now we've got really good players. They've got really good players. It's just getting them in the right places and getting those guys enough reps working together. That would be my guess. Again, everybody defines what they think is struggling, right? And, I don't know that I've seen them struggle a whole lot, but, I think that, some of that shifting has maybe been a little bit of an issue.